The cameras weren't supposed to be rolling like this. Not tonight, not when tears were already pooling in his eyes and the room felt too small to hold what was about to spill out. But when Scrappy finally leaned forward, voice shaking, and said, "Y'all don't know what I survived as a kid," the silence hit harder than any beat drop. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and within seconds the internet knew, this wasn't another headline. This was a reckoning. For years, the world has watched Scrappy play the tough guy, the loyal son, the survivor who always bounced back. But behind the bravado, behind the jokes and viral moments, there was a story he never told. Until now. Tonight, Scrappy gets real about his childhood, and what he reveals about his relationship with his mother, yes, Momma Dee, has fans questioning everything they thought they knew. It starts with a single question from off-camera. A harmless prompt, a soft lob, but Scrappy's jaw tightens, his eyes dart away, and then, like a dam cracking under pressure, the truth begins to pour out. He talks about nights when food was scarce, mornings when school felt like an escape, and a home that didn't always feel safe. "People think I was raised in luxury," he says bitterly. "They don't know the half." And then he says her name. Momma Dee. The same woman fans have laughed with, argued with, and defended for years. The self-proclaimed queen. The mother who always claimed she did her best. But according to Scrappy, there's a darker side to the story, one filled with painful choices, shocking sacrifices, and moments that left scars no one could see. As his voice cracks, he hints at betrayals that cut deep in secrets that were buried to protect a public image. Within minutes, social media erupts. Fans are shocked. Comment sections explode. Old clips resurface. Friends start texting. Family members scramble behind the scenes. Because if Scrappy is telling the truth, then the narrative everyone accepted is about to shatter. And here's the part that makes it even more explosive. Momma Dee didn't stay silent. Sources say she was blindsided, hurt, furious, and ready to clap back. This isn't just a story about a rapper opening up. It's about a mother and son locked in a battle of truth versus perception. It's about childhood pain colliding with reality TV fame. And by the end of this video, one question will haunt you. Was Scrappy finally brave enough to tell the truth, or did he just ignite a family war that can never be undone? The room felt heavier than anyone expected, like the air itself was listening. Scrappy sat back in his chair, rubbing his hands together the way he always did when he was nervous, that habit from childhood he never quite shook. The cameras zoomed in slowly, not missing the way his jaw tightened or how his eyes glossed over when someone off to the side asked him to talk about where it all began. He let out a breath that sounded more like a laugh but didn't reach his eyes. He said, "People always think they know my story because they watched me on TV, but they don't know what it cost me just to survive." He paused again, long enough that everyone in the room shifted uncomfortably. Then he started talking about being a kid who learned early not to ask for too much. He described small apartments with thin walls, places where arguments traveled faster than comfort. He said he remembered nights when he would lie awake listening to his mom pace back and forth, talking to herself, crying, then snapping back into strength like nothing happened. He said as a kid you don't understand why your parent is angry at the world, you just think somehow it's your fault. As his voice grew steadier, the memories got darker. He talked about watching his mom chase dreams while he chased stability. He said people praise her for being strong, for surviving her own struggles, but nobody ever asked how that strength sometimes turned sharp. He recalled moments when words cut deeper than any belt ever could, moments when being told you're ungrateful or weak sticks with you longer than hunger. Emotions ran high as he admitted that he learned to be loud and defensive because quiet never protected him. The crew stayed silent, but Scrappy could feel the weight of what he was saying. He said there were times he felt more like a partner than a child, times when he felt responsible for keeping his mother afloat emotionally. He talked about being pulled into adult conversations too young, about money problems, relationship drama, and choices no kid should have to process. He said, "I loved my mom, but I was tired before I even knew what tired meant." Then came the first twist that made everyone's eyes widen. Scrappy revealed that there was a period when he didn't even live with his mom, something fans were never told. He explained that things got so unstable that other family members stepped in, quietly, without cameras, without praise. He said those years were confusing because he felt abandoned and relieved at the same time. Abandoned because his mom wasn't there, relieved because for once he could breathe. The family was left divided even back then, arguments happening behind closed doors about what was best for him. He described visiting his mom during that time, feeling like a guest instead of a son. He said she would put on a show, smiling big, acting proud, but as soon as the doors closed the tension came right back. He admitted that part of him started building resentment early, not because she struggled, but because she refused to admit how her choices affected him. Fans are shocked hearing this, because it clashes with the confident image Momma Dee always presented. Scrappy then shifted to his teenage years, when he said the anger really took root. He talked about acting out, fighting, getting into trouble, not because he wanted attention, but because pain needed somewhere to go. He said when he tried to talk to his mom about how he felt, it always turned into a competition about who had it harder. He remembered her saying things like, "You think your life is hard, you don't know what I've been through." He said that sentence still echoes in his head. The conversation grew even heavier when Scrappy revealed a moment he said changed everything between them. He talked about coming home excited about a small win, a chance to record, a chance to be something more than a statistic. Instead of support, he said he was met with skepticism and control. He claimed his mom questioned his choices, his friends, his ambition. Then he leaned forward, voice dropping. He admitted that fame didn't fix their relationship, it exposed it. When cameras entered their lives, old wounds became entertainment. He said arguments that should have been private became storylines, and every unresolved childhood issue came rushing back. He said sometimes he played into it because it was easier to argue than to admit he was hurt. Other times he stayed silent because he didn't want to disrespect his mother publicly, even when he felt disrespected privately. He described one explosive argument that never aired, one that happened off camera but still haunts him. He said words were said that couldn't be taken back, accusations about loyalty, about gratitude, about who owed who what. He claimed that when he finally tried to express his pain calmly, his mom laughed it off, calling him dramatic. That laugh, he said, hurt more than any scream ever did. As Scrappy spoke, the reactions around him began to ripple outward. Producers exchanged looks. Someone off camera wiped their eyes. Friends who had known him for years later admitted they never realized how deep his wounds went. Fans watching at home would later flood social media with messages of support, disbelief, and anger. Some defended Momma Dee, saying she did her best. Others questioned everything they'd seen on TV. Scrappy wasn't done. He confessed that there were moments he considered cutting ties completely, disappearing from the noise, just to heal. But guilt always pulled him back. He said, in our culture, cutting off your mother feels like the ultimate betrayal, no matter how much pain you carry. He admitted that part of him still craved her approval, still wanted to hear her say she was proud without conditions. He ended this stretch of his story by saying he wasn't telling this to tear her down. He said he was tired of pretending everything was fine. He said healing starts with honesty, even when honesty makes people uncomfortable. He looked straight into the camera and said, if my truth divides people, then maybe it's because it was never meant to stay hidden. And just as the room settled into a heavy silence, a phone buzzed on the table. A message came through that would change the direction of everything. Momma Dee had heard what was being said, and according to those close to her, she was not taking it lightly. Her response was already forming, and it was anything but quiet. The buzz of that phone felt louder than any argument ever could. Scrappy glanced at it but didn't pick it up, already knowing who it was from. The room shifted again, tension crawling up everyone's spine. He said that's usually how it goes, she hears something she doesn't like and instead of asking me how I feel, she prepares a response. Not a conversation, a performance. Emotions ran high as he admitted he still feared her reactions, even as a grown man. Behind the scenes, word traveled fast. Momma Dee wasn't just upset, she was livid. According to people close to her, she felt betrayed, blindsided, and embarrassed. She allegedly paced her house the same way she used to when Scrappy was a kid, replaying his words over and over. She reportedly said, after everything I sacrificed, this is how he repays me. Fans are shocked hearing that her first instinct wasn't reflection, but defense. Scrappy continued, explaining that this pattern had existed his entire life. Whenever he tried to speak his truth, it was met with anger or dismissal. He said his mother mastered the art of turning pain into a joke, deflecting accountability with humor and theatrics. He admitted that for years, he laughed along, even when it hurt, because pushing back only made things worse. Then he dropped another revelation that stunned everyone listening. Scrappy claimed there were moments in his childhood when he felt emotionally manipulated. He described being told that if he didn't behave a certain way or show loyalty, he was ungrateful. He said love always felt conditional, tied to obedience and public praise. He remembered being praised loudly when he complied, and criticized harshly when he questioned anything. The family was left divided because some relatives saw this as tough love, while others quietly worried about the damage it caused. He recalled a specific memory from his early teens, one that still makes his chest tighten. He talked about overhearing his mom tell someone that he owed her for everything she'd done. He said hearing that made him feel like a dad instead of a son. He didn't confront her then. He internalized it. He said that moment taught him to prove his worth through success, not self-worth. As he grew older and started making money, that dynamic intensified. Scrappy explained that financial success didn't bring peace, it brought new expectations. He said there was always an unspoken assumption that he would provide, fix, and protect. He admitted that while he wanted to help his mom, he resented being made to feel responsible for her happiness. He said no matter how much he gave, it never felt like enough. Meanwhile, Momma Dee was reportedly gathering her own receipts. She allegedly called family members, reminding them of nights she went without so he could eat, of dangers she faced raising him alone. She insisted that Scrappy was rewriting history for sympathy. Emotions ran high on both sides, and people close to the family feared an explosion was coming. Scrappy then addressed the public perception directly. He said he knows fans see edited moments, not full lives. He acknowledged that his mom survived a lot, but survival doesn't cancel harm. He said two things can be true at once, and that's what people struggle to accept. Fans are shocked because this wasn't the Scrappy they were used to seeing. This was raw, reflective, and unguarded. He described how reality TV amplified every unresolved issue. Producers loved their fiery exchanges, and he admitted he sometimes leaned into it because anger felt safer than vulnerability. He said admitting pain would have made him look weak in a world that rewards drama. But off camera, the silence was louder than the fights. He said there were long stretches where they barely spoke, pretending everything was fine for appearances. Then came another twist. Scrappy revealed that he once tried to go to therapy with his mom. He said it was his attempt at healing, his olive branch. According to him, the session barely started before his mom turned defensive, accusing him of trying to make her look like a bad parent. He said she walked out, leaving him sitting there alone, realizing that healing requires willingness from both sides. That moment, he said, broke something in him. He stopped expecting change. Instead, he focused on surviving emotionally, setting boundaries even when they were ignored. He admitted that those boundaries often got painted as disrespect. He said saying no became an act of rebellion in her eyes. As Scrappy spoke, reactions poured in from people who knew the family personally. Some friends admitted they had witnessed the tension but never understood its roots. Others said they always sensed something deeper beneath the jokes and insults. Fans online began sharing their own stories, saying they felt seen. Emotions ran high across social media, turning this into more than celebrity drama. It became a conversation about parenting, trauma, and accountability. Scrappy then addressed his own faults. He admitted he wasn't perfect. He said he lashed out, said hurtful things, and sometimes used anger as a shield. He took responsibility for moments where he escalated conflicts instead of de-escalating them. But he made it clear that accountability shouldn't be one-sided. Healing, he said, requires honesty from everyone involved. Just when it seemed like he had said everything, another message came through. This time, it wasn't just a warning. Momma Dee had reportedly gone live, hinting that she had her own story to tell. She allegedly told her followers that she was done being painted as the villain. The tension shifted instantly. What started as Scrappy's truth was turning into a public showdown. Scrappy looked into the camera again, eyes tired but determined. He said, "This is exactly what I mean. Instead of calling me, instead of asking me what I need, she goes public." He said that cycle is what hurt the most. The need to win, to control the narrative, always came before understanding. The room fell quiet again as everyone realized this was no longer just a confession. It was the beginning of a battle that would force both of them to confront years of unresolved pain. And as Momma Dee prepared her response, one thing became clear. This story was far from over, and the next chapter would test every fragile bond they had left. The moment Momma Dee went live, everything shifted. Scrappy didn't need to watch the stream to know what was happening. He had lived this pattern too many times. Someone in the room quietly read out parts of what she was saying, her voice reportedly shaking but sharp, saying she was tired of being disrespected, tired of being blamed, tired of carrying the weight of a story nobody wanted to hear. Fans are shocked as clips began spreading faster than anyone could control. Scrappy closed his eyes when he heard that she called him ungrateful. He said that word always felt like a weapon. He explained that growing up, gratitude was demanded, not taught. He said being fed, clothed, and housed was always presented as a favor, not a responsibility. Emotions ran high as he admitted that even now, Momma Dee's life reportedly grew more intense. She allegedly reminded viewers of the dangers she faced, the sacrifices she made, the nights she cried alone. She insisted she did the best she could with what she had. Many fans immediately sided with her, flooding comments with praise and sympathy. Others questioned why she couldn't acknowledge her son's pain without centering herself. The family was left divided once again, this time in front of millions. Scrappy addressed that divide head-on. He said he never denied her struggles. He said he lived them too. He said surviving together doesn't mean surviving unscarred. He explained that two people can walk through the same fire and come out with different burns. His voice cracked when he said, "My pain doesn't erase hers, but hers doesn't erase mine either." He then revealed something he had never said publicly before. He admitted that there were moments in his childhood when he felt afraid of his mom's emotional swings. Not physical fear, but the fear of never knowing which version of her he would get. He described coming home excited one day and walking into silence the next, learning to read moods instead of enjoying childhood. He said that kind of hyper-awareness stays with you for life. As Momma Dee continued posting cryptic messages and vague accusations, Scrappy's phone began blowing up. Relatives picked sides. Old friends resurfaced. Some urged him to apologize just to keep peace. Others encouraged him to finally stand firm. Emotions ran high as he admitted how exhausting it was to constantly choose between truth and harmony. He talked about one aunt who called him crying, begging him to stop talking publicly. She told him he was tearing the family apart. He said that call broke him because he realized the family preferred silence over healing. He said secrets kept them comfortable, but honesty made them uncomfortable. Fans are shocked because this dynamic felt painfully familiar to many watching. Scrappy then reflected on how fame complicated everything. He said once money and cameras entered the picture, every disagreement felt transactional. He questioned whether love was genuine or influenced by access and status. He admitted that sometimes he felt more like an investment than a son. That realization, he said, hurt more than any argument ever did. Meanwhile, Momma Dee's narrative shifted again. According to people watching closely, she began accusing Scrappy of being influenced by outsiders, suggesting that others put these thoughts in his head. Scrappy shook his head when he heard that. He said that was another pattern, refusing to believe her son could think independently. He said it hurt that she trusted strangers' loyalty more than his truth. He then shared a moment that stunned everyone in the room. Scrappy revealed that there was a time he almost walked away from music entirely. Not because he failed, but because success felt suffocating. He said every achievement came with expectations and guilt. He admitted he felt responsible for fixing a past he didn't create. That pressure, he said, nearly broke him. As the online battle escalated, fans began digging into old footage, old interviews, old moments that suddenly felt different. Jokes now looked like jabs. Laughter now sounded forced. Fans are shocked as they rewatched scenes through a new lens, questioning whether pain had been hiding in plain sight all along. Scrappy spoke about that too. He said humor was his armor. If he laughed first, no one could hurt him. If he joked about his pain, it felt lighter. But carrying that weight for decades took its toll. He admitted that vulnerability terrified him more than anger ever did. Then came another unexpected twist. Scrappy revealed that he had already tried to have a private conversation with his mom before speaking publicly. He said he called her, asked her to listen, begged her not to turn it into a spectacle. According to him, she dismissed him, saying the public already knew the truth. That was the moment he realized his voice would never be heard in private. That realization, he said, forced his hand. He didn't want a war, but he refused to stay silent anymore. He said I chose peace for years and it nearly destroyed me. Now I choose truth, even if it's loud. The reactions kept pouring in. Fellow artists reached out with support. Some admitted they related deeply. Others warned him about the backlash that comes with challenging family publicly. Emotions ran high as Scrappy admitted he was scared of losing whatever relationship they had left, but more scared of losing himself. As Momma Dee's posts grew more pointed, hinting at secrets and sacrifices yet to be revealed, the tension reached a breaking point. Scrappy looked exhausted, but resolute. He said he wasn't interested in dragging mud. He said if she wanted to tell her story, she could. He just wanted space for his truth to exist without being attacked. He ended this part of his story by saying that no matter what happens next, he refuses to go back to pretending. He said healing doesn't always look like reconciliation. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like distance. And sometimes it looks like finally speaking the words you were taught to swallow. The fallout didn't slow down, it multiplied. By the next morning, Scrappy woke up to headlines twisting his words, clips taken out of context, and commentary from people who had never met him. He said that part hurt in a different way, because suddenly his childhood pain was being debated like a sport. Emotions ran high as he admitted that seeing strangers pick apart his trauma made him question if speaking up was worth it. Momma Dee, meanwhile, doubled down. She reportedly began doing interviews, insisting that her son was confused, emotional, and ungrateful for the sacrifices she made. She spoke about survival, about danger, about strength, painting herself as a warrior who did everything alone. Fans are shocked as her tone shifted from hurt to defiant, as if admitting fault would undo her entire identity. Scrappy responded quietly at first. He said he tried to stay offline, to protect his peace. But every new clip felt like a jab. He said watching his mother cry on camera stirred guilt in him, the same guilt that always dragged him back into silence. He admitted that part of him wanted to apologize just to make it stop, even if it meant swallowing his truth again. Then came a call that changed everything. A family member, someone Scrappy respected deeply, reached out not to scold him, but to listen. He said that conversation reminded him why he spoke up in the first place. He realized he wasn't crazy, he wasn't exaggerating. His pain was real, even if it made others uncomfortable. As the days passed, more people from his past began speaking privately. Old friends confirmed that Scrappy carried adult stress too young. Teachers remembered him as guarded but kind. Even a former neighbor reached out, saying she remembered nights when yelling filled the walls. Fans are shocked as these quiet confirmations started surfacing, validating what Scrappy had always felt but never proved. Momma Dee, sensing the shift, reportedly grew more defensive. Sources claimed she felt cornered, misunderstood, and attacked. She allegedly said people were trying to erase her struggle. Scrappy addressed this directly, saying accountability isn't erasure. He said recognizing harm doesn't cancel survival. Emotions ran high as he explained that refusing accountability only deepens wounds. Scrappy then opened up about something he hadn't shared yet. He admitted that becoming a father forced him to confront his past in a new way. He said looking at his own child made him question patterns he normalized. He said he started asking himself hard questions, like what kind of love am I teaching, what kind of safety am I providing? That reflection, he said, made silence impossible. He talked about moments when he caught himself repeating phrases his mom used, and how it terrified him. He said that fear pushed him toward growth, therapy, and self-awareness. He admitted that healing isn't linear and that he still struggles with anger. But he said breaking cycles requires honesty, not denial. As public opinion continued to split, the family tension reached new levels. Group chats went quiet, invitations stopped coming. Scrappy said the isolation hurt, but it also clarified things. He realized how many relationships were built on him staying quiet. Once he spoke up, those bonds weakened. The family was left divided, not by truth, but by how much truth they were willing to tolerate. Momma Dee's narrative took another turn when she hinted at secrets she claimed she protected him from. She suggested that if she told her full story, people would see her differently. Fans are shocked as speculation ran wild. Scrappy responded calmly, saying threats of revelation only reinforced the imbalance he grew up with. He said fear should never be a parenting tool. He also addressed the idea that children owe their parents unconditional loyalty. He said love doesn't mean silence. He said respect shouldn't require self-erasure. Those words resonated deeply with viewers, sparking debates across platforms. Emotions ran high as people shared stories of their own families, echoing Scrappy's experience. Behind the scenes, producers reportedly pushed for a reunion moment, hoping to capture reconciliation on camera. Scrappy said he refused. He said healing isn't a spectacle. He said he wasn't willing to package his pain for entertainment anymore. That decision marked a turning point, showing that this wasn't about ratings for him. It was about survival. Momma Dee allegedly felt rejected by that refusal. Sources said she took it as another betrayal. Scrappy acknowledged that pain, but stood firm. He said boundaries feel like rejection to people who benefited from you having none. That statement hit hard, even among those who didn't fully agree with him. As weeks passed, the noise slowly softened. Not because things were resolved, but because both sides grew tired. Scrappy used that quiet to focus inward. He said he began writing, not for charts but for release. He admitted that putting his story into music felt safer than saying it out loud. He also admitted that forgiveness was complicated. He said forgiving someone doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means accepting reality and choosing how much access they get. Emotions ran high as he said he wasn't sure what forgiveness would look like for him yet, and that uncertainty was okay. Momma Dee, according to those close to her, struggled with that distance. She reportedly oscillated between anger and sadness, unsure how to bridge the gap without giving up control. Scrappy said he hoped one day they could talk without cameras, without defensiveness, without keeping score. But he made it clear that he wouldn't chase reconciliation at the cost of his mental health. As this part of the story settled, one truth became unavoidable. This wasn't just a celebrity dispute. It was a mirror held up to generational trauma, to unspoken pain, to the cost of silence. Fans are shocked not because the story is unique, but because it's familiar. And just when it seemed like things might finally cool down, a leaked audio clip began circulating online, one that promised to reopen wounds Scrappy was still trying to heal, threatening to pull both mother and son back into a storm neither of them was prepared to face. The leaked audio hit like a punch to the chest. Scrappy heard it before he saw it, his phone buzzing non-stop with messages that all said the same thing: "Have you heard this?" The recording was grainy, emotional, unmistakable. It was his mother's voice, frustrated, angry, venting to someone she trusted, never expecting the world to hear it. Emotions ran high the moment it went public. In the clip, Momma Dee talked about sacrifice, about feeling used, about raising a son who, in her words, forgot where he came from. She didn't name him directly, but it didn't matter. Fans are shocked because the pain in her voice was real, but so was the resentment. The internet exploded overnight. Some people said the audio proved she was hurting too. Others said it revealed exactly what Scrappy had been trying to explain for years. Scrappy listened to the audio alone. He said hearing it felt like being a child again, standing outside a door, listening to conversations he wasn't supposed to hear but always did. He admitted that part of him felt validated because the tone matched the emotional pressure he described. Another part of him felt heartbroken because he could hear how trapped she felt in her own story. He decided not to respond immediately. Instead, he sat with it. He said that was new for him. His old instinct would have been to clap back, to defend himself loudly. This time, he chose silence, not as surrender, but as self-protection. That choice confused people. Fans are shocked when silence replaces chaos, because they expect a spectacle. Behind the scenes, the family went into crisis mode. Phone calls flew back and forth, arguments reignited, old wounds reopened. Some relatives blamed Scrappy for speaking up in the first place. Others blamed Momma Dee for refusing to listen when it mattered most. The family was left divided so deeply that even neutral gatherings felt impossible. Scrappy revealed that one family elder finally spoke up, saying what many had been afraid to say. They reportedly told Momma Dee that her pain was valid, but so was her son's. That conversation, according to Scrappy, ended in tears. Not healing tears, but the kind that come when reality cracks a carefully built narrative. He then shared how the public reaction affected his mental health. He said waking up every day to opinions about his childhood felt invasive. He admitted that anxiety crept back in, the kind he thought he'd outgrown. Nights got restless. Trust felt fragile. Emotions ran high as he confessed that even support sometimes felt overwhelming. He also talked about the pressure to be strong. He said people expect men, especially black men, to carry pain quietly. To be grateful, resilient, unbreakable. He admitted that breaking that expectation came with backlash. Some fans accused him of disrespect. Others told him to man up. Hearing that, he said, reminded him why so many people stay silent. Meanwhile, Momma Dee's circle encouraged her to defend herself harder. Sources claimed she felt misunderstood by the public, convinced that Scrappy's story overshadowed her sacrifices. She reportedly said if people really knew what I went through, they'd understand. But Scrappy pointed out that understanding shouldn't require competition. He then reflected on a memory that resurfaced after the audio leaked. He talked about a time when he was sick as a kid, lying in bed, listening to his mom argue on the phone about money. He said even then, he learned to minimize his needs, not wanting to add to her stress. That habit followed him into adulthood, always prioritizing others' emotions over his own. The audio leak also sparked conversations beyond the family. Therapists weighed in online. Trauma experts discussed generational cycles. Fans are shocked as the story evolved from gossip to social commentary. Scrappy acknowledged that shift, saying if his pain could help someone else feel less alone, then maybe it served a purpose beyond drama. Still, the guilt lingered. He admitted feeling responsible for his mother's public pain. He questioned whether speaking his truth caused more harm than healing. Those doubts kept him up at night. But every time he considered apologizing just to restore peace, he remembered the years he lost to silence. He eventually decided to address the audio directly. Not with anger, but with clarity. He said he understood his mother's pain. He said he heard her fear of being erased. But he also said her pain didn't justify dismissing his. Emotions ran high as he explained that acknowledging harm isn't betrayal, it's honesty. That response didn't end the conflict. If anything, it shifted it. Momma Dee reportedly felt exposed, stripped of control over the narrative. Scrappy recognized that control had always been central to their dynamic. He said losing control felt like losing love to her. Understanding that didn't fix things, but it softened his anger. As weeks turned into months, distance settled in. They stopped communicating altogether. Scrappy said that silence felt different this time. Not tense, not explosive. Just quiet. He used that space to focus on his own healing, spending time with his child, grounding himself in moments that felt safe. He admitted that grief came in waves. Not grief for what was, but for what never was. The mother-son relationship he always wanted. The conversations that never happened. The apologies that never came. Emotions ran high as he said mourning those losses was necessary, even if painful. Momma Dee, according to people close to her, struggled with that distance. She reportedly felt lonely, angry, reflective all at once. Without Scrappy to react to, her energy turned inward. Some say she began questioning things privately, even if she wasn't ready to admit it publicly. Scrappy ended this part of his story with a quiet truth. He said sometimes healing doesn't come with closure. Sometimes it comes with acceptance. Acceptance that people may never meet you where you need them to. Acceptance that love can exist alongside boundaries. And just when it seemed like the storm had finally settled into uneasy calm, Scrappy received a message he never expected. It wasn't from a producer, a fan, or a family member acting as a messenger. It was directly from his mother. Short, emotional, and powerful enough to reopen everything he thought he had finally laid to rest. And now it's your turn, because stories like this don't end when the video does. What you just heard wasn't just entertainment, it was emotion, memory, pain, and truth colliding in real time. When Scrappy finally opened up about his childhood, it forced everyone watching to ask uncomfortable questions. Questions about family, questions about loyalty, questions about how much silence really costs. Fans are shocked not just because of what was said, but because so many of you recognized pieces of your own lives in his story. You've seen the tears, the anger, the blame, and the distance. You've watched a mother and son struggle to be heard in a world that rewards drama more than healing. And even now, with everything laid bare, nothing feels neatly resolved. That's real life. Not every story gets a clean ending. Not every wound gets an apology. Sometimes all you get is the truth, and the choice of what to do with it. So now ask yourself, whose side are you on, or are you brave enough to admit there might be more than one truth here? Do you believe survival excuses harm, or do you believe accountability can exist alongside sacrifice? When Momma Dee speaks about everything she endured, do you hear strength, deflection, or both? And when Scrappy talks about pain that followed him into adulthood, do you hear betrayal, or the sound of someone finally refusing to stay silent? This is where the conversation continues, and your voice matters. Drop a comment right now and tell us what you think. Do you believe Scrappy was right to speak his truth publicly, even if it hurt his family? Do you think Momma Dee deserves more grace for surviving circumstances no one else had to face? Or do you think this is a tragic case of love mixed with unresolved trauma on both sides? Don't hold back, because this comment section is where the real dialogue happens. If this story hit close to home for you, you're not alone. So many people watching are realizing that family dynamics aren't always black and white. Love can exist alongside pain. Respect can exist alongside boundaries. And sometimes healing doesn't look like reconciliation, it looks like finally choosing yourself. Emotions ran high throughout this entire story, and that's because it touched something deeper than celebrity headlines. Before you go, make sure you hit that like button if this story made you feel something, because that tells us to keep bringing you the stories nobody else is willing to tell. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next, because let's be honest, this story isn't over. There are still unanswered questions, unspoken words, and possible confrontations that could change everything all over again. And most importantly, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's struggling with family expectations. Someone who's been told to stay quiet for the sake of peace. Someone who needs to know that their feelings are valid, even when others don't want to hear them. So now we ask you directly, looking straight through the screen at you. If you were in Scrappy's position, what would you have done? Would you have stayed silent? Would you have chosen peace over truth? Or would you have finally spoken up, knowing it might cost you everything? Let us know in the comments, because your story deserves to be heard too.